Hello, hello. Would you like to add a little bit of flair to your site? It totally brought me back to the Office Space movie when Jennifer Aniston had all the pieces of flair on her uniform she had to wear for work. But really, if you want to add some fun visual interest to your pages, there are some easy little tips and tricks to be able to do that and just help you kind of create a more engaging experience for those visitors on your page, help set your page apart design-wise, and again, draw people in, help them stay on your page longer, and again, help convert them over into, from visitors into leads or clients by, again, pulling them in, making a more engaging site. So I'm going to share this screen here. I've got my doggo who always wants attention when I start talking. I'm going to flip this around. Okay, so I'm going to go over to this page here and I'm going to show you how to add some different elements to your page that can really make it pop. Now, one word of caution, you don't want to go too crazy with all sorts of different things. I'm going to be talking about animation, overlaps, parallax, things like that. So you just don't want to have so much. You want to use these different fun kind of flair elements as accents to your site, right? You don't want it to have too many things. That just gets a little bit crazy. And also it can potentially slow down your overall page loading time, which is not good for your visitors on your site or for your SEO. So you want to just keep this minimal, but just add in here and there because they do add a little bit of visual interest. Okay, so one of the things that is a nice, easy way to just, again, grab people's attention is by adding some animation to your site. And so within the Shine Pages platform, you can add some moving elements to your site pretty simply, and you can do that to almost any of the elements on your page. For example, a block of heading text or a button, a block of regular text. If you have an image on your page that's not part of the background of a column, but it's just an image widget that you've added, you can animate that. So I'll show you here. So on this one, I'm just going to click once on this actual element, which this happens to be a heading element. And you'll always just see here where it has a little like play button. If you hit that play button, this will give you two options. One is animation, which we'll talk about. Another one is delaying this element. So element delay is a nice option for if you want to have something, maybe you have a video and the video is 3 minutes long and you want the buy now button to appear below the video, after that video is almost done. So if the video is 3 minutes long, have your button appear at minute 2.5 or something like that. So you can delay an element, but right now for most people, they want to use the animation. And so you can see if you go to animation, there's a bunch of different animation styles that you can choose from. So you can fade this text coming in from the left. You can rotate your text to come in. You can have it bounce kind of up and down. Flipping it horizontally or vertically, bouncing from the top or the bottom. So you can set all of these things where they'll kind of come in from different directions. You can also set your animation speed and then any animation delay that you want to have. So if you maybe have multiple pictures, like 3 pictures, maybe you want the first one to flip and then a slight delay of maybe just maybe 200 milliseconds. So you can kind of do that. Maybe the second one flips, so the second, 200 milliseconds later, and the third one flips 400 milliseconds later or something like that. So you can kind of set up the delay and the speed of your animation. So we can set that here. I'm going to set this one to come in from the bottom. Let's just do that. This one can come in from the right. So you can really, change it up, have things come in from different directions. And if you hit Save Changes and then you go and look out at your website preview, you can see that. I can just show that again. I'll show that in a new tab. Hopefully this appears to you all. You can see that kind of floated in. This one came up. It's kind of a subtle change, but it does add that visual interest to your site with animation. Okay, so again, you can do that with pretty much any of the elements on your page. It's a really nice way to grab that attention. One is another thing. So we have another fun element I'm going to show you out here is just having your images show up as a parallax image. So as you can see here, the background right here of this flower, this looks like the text that's in front of it is scrolling at a different rate of speed. So it's kind of scrolling over a background image. Again, it looks like it's animated on your site. It adds that movement, that visual interest and that movement to your page. And so all this is I have a block set up. Let's go here. Okay. So on this page here, what you would do, you would have a block. So for your block, in the block settings, so click the word block, you're going to add an image to the background of this block. In this case, I chose actually a vertical image because that is going to allow the horizontal, space to kind of float over that vertical image, and it gives me more of a parallax effect versus if I was using a horizontal image that kind of fit the shape of the horizontal bar of text. You're not gonna notice it as much. However, if it's a vertical image and you're scanning that horizontal section over the top of it, you're gonna notice more of an appearance for that parallax effect. So this parallax, you just click the block settings, click the button for parallax. You can set your parallax speed right here. So that's one way to kind of, again, add some visual interest to your page. Within your block settings, you also have some other fun things you can do to make some changes on your site. So one of them is you can always add an overlay to your background color. That's going to add just that kind of little overlay over the back. It helps if you have text that you'd like to have pop off the page. Maybe you have a very light background and your text is also light. It's hard to read that. Or a very dark background and you have black text. It's going to be harder to read that. One way to make a difference is to have some contrast between the two, and adding an overlay is a great way to do that. So that's without an overlay. That's with an overlay. Again, this works whether you're doing parallax or not. Any type of block in the background of a block or a column, you can add an overlay to it. That overlay, if you click the color for the overlay, you can choose your color for the overlay. You can also choose how transparent you want that to be. So you have the choice of if you want it to be quite dark or just a little tinge of color, really to match your branding. So these are different ways you can make this different. I have an opacity here. You can just go scroll it down, or as you can see here, you can use your little arrows and change the opacity with the arrows here. So that's one way to make another visual interest here. The other thing you can do is when you go into overlay, you can add a gradient. So not only just one solid color, but you can have a gradient where you can have a starting color and an ending color. Let's go with something pretty extreme so you can see the difference between this gradient here. So as you can see, this is a gradient from green to yellow. This is also a solid gradient, but just like with the overlay, if you go into the gradients settings, you can click those colors and also change down the transparency, the opacity, so you can have a gradient where you can actually still see through to the background. So again, if I go here to my preview and I go down to that section of the page, you can see I still have the parallax turned on. And I have now a gradient that goes from a more yellow area over here to green over here. Again, if I go into my block settings, this is where I'm at, the overlay of a gradient. The gradient settings are here. You can choose your start color and end color. You can choose the opacity of that starting color and that ending color. And you can also choose whether it's a linear or a radial, meaning it's coming from the center and radiating out. Or on the linear, you can also change the gradient angle and move things around like that. So you got a lot of design freedom here, right in here. Okay, so I'm going to go to a separate section up here that I had. Another fun way to make some changes is to add things like shape dividers. So right here, this block itself, this is just a standard block that just has a colored background. This could have text on top of it. You could change this into multiple different columns, add different widgets, headings, text, images into those columns. But just for this purpose, I'm going to show you a solid blank block or container on the site. If you go again into the blocks settings, you're going to be able to go here to where you have a add shape divider. If you click add shape divider, otherwise it's going to be a straight edge divider. I can say add shape divider. And here's where I can choose from these number of different types of shape dividers. So I can have a triangle, and then here's where I can choose to invert my divider or flip the divider. So it's a little, actually this one's kind of, there's no way to flip this one, but other ones you can. So there's an undefined. I can flip this one so it's over here. And then you can have your dividers be at the bottom or the top of that block. So if you want to have an effect where you have a shape divider at the top and the bottom, you would simply go to the block right above. And in this case, I'm using the shape overlay and I'm choosing to have this tilt, this kind of angle here. That's going to show up at the bottom of the top block. And then I have, so that's basically looking like the top, but it's really the bottom of the block above. And then this block here, that is at the bottom of the block. So you just are kind of using the block above and the block you want to be able to have the effect of having a top and a bottom to your block itself. Same thing with this block. You could add a gradient to this block. You could add an overlay to this block, as well as that shape divider. So again, lots of design freedom here for you if you wanted to do different things here. You can also add a video background. So you can enter in a YouTube URL, and that this way you won't see it in the preview, but you will see it out on your live site, a snippet of a video that's playing. This can potentially slow down your site a little bit. So I would not put it in your header or the hero image, sorry. I would put this a little bit lower down on the page just so it's a little bit more time to load for people. But it is, again, if you use a lot of video or if you want to represent something visually, you absolutely can. You can set your start and end time. You can have it loop. Again, on the video, you can add overlays and gradients to the videos as well as your background. Okay, I'm going to save the changes there. Let's see, I've gone through shape dividers. I have gone through animations and parallax. A couple others I want to mention before we finish up. One of those is having things overlap. So I think I did a little example here. Yep, if I go out here. You can see that, one sec here. Okay, so this image here looks like it's overlapping the block above. And I'll show you how to do that here. So if I close this out, on any area of your site where you have a column, so within every block, the pages are made up of blocks stacked on top of each other. Each block starts out with one row, though you can add other rows. And within each row, you can separate the row into columns. This particular row happens to have, if I click on it once, I will get the 3 little mini columns menu here. I can see that this is split into 3 columns. I have one column right here. I have another column right here, and this is my 3rd column in this block. So if I click on this column's settings, you'll see that there's a lot of the same things you can do with a block. You can add background colors, gradients, etc., overlays. And then for columns in particular, you can change the top column margin. So here I can change this one down or up. As you can see, it's moving behind me. This is going to help you with overlapping it onto a different section. So you can kind of get a little clever, make some changes there, make some overlaps, and that's how you'd get that overlapping effect. Finally, with columns as well, you can also add borders and shadows. So if I wanted to add a border behind my picture to kind of frame it out, you can add whatever kind of color you'd like for your border. It's at a bold color so that you can see it well. I can change the size of that border. This is working because this picture happens to be the background image of this column. So the column itself has a border. And that image is just shrinking within the column's size because the border is getting thicker. So as I do that, I can change here. I can also change the radius. That's going to make rounded edges. I'll show you what that looks like. Let me clear everything out here. Okay, great. So actually I was incorrect. This image looks like it is not the background image of the column. It was just an image widget placed inside of the column. I can always take this image out. And the reason I know that, I'll give you a little hip. So the reason I know that is because as I rounded the corners of this column with the radius, I can see that the image itself still has the sharp edges, the squared off edges. And I don't like that look. I want to have the image itself have rounded edges, just like the corners of the column do. So what I need to do is, instead of having this image be a widget placed inside of a column, I'm instead going to have the background of the whole column be the image. So I'm going to remove this picture and I'm going to add a background to my column. So I'm going to go here to column settings, add an image to the background. Perfect. Now it's not as big, right? Because that image itself was longer and I was able to drag it because it was kind of a separate image widget. If I wanted to make this taller and more vertical, I would just simply add in a spacer. And now I have a spacer in here and I can just pull that down. And now I have that a larger image as well. But as you can see, the difference is now when I round the edges of the radius of my column, the picture, because it's the background of the column, is also having the rounded edges. So this is, again, a way to add border to your columns. Your border size can change like this. And again, your border radius can change like this. So that's how you do your borders and making a little framing effect around your pages, around your images and around your columns. Okay, so that is another little change right there. Went over the overlaps, the borders in the columns. I think those are the main things I wanted to cover today. I'm going to go back over here and see if I can see you all. Change my view here, see if there's any comments. I can't see any comments right now, but if you did have any comments or any questions, please post them below this video. I'll be sure to reach out, or someone from our team will. And I hope you have fun playing with all these bits of flair for your site or your funnel or your course. All of these can be added to any of the pages. Again, a page is the same building-wise as in a website, as in an online course, in a funnel page, etc. So you can add this little bit of flair, this little bit of engaging movement to really draw in your visitors. I can't wait to see you shine online. Thanks.